Welcome to At Home with the President. I'm Anita Hubern. His Excellency Donald Ramotar has graciously welcomed us into his home so we can chat about his policy initiatives and the impact of those initiatives that has led to the success for all of Guyana. Many, many successes. We are very pleased that you've joined us for this first edition. Mr. President, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it must have been a hard week for you, and you're getting ready for an election. So how is that going?
At the moment, the elections campaign, while it's in the air, it has really not gone full force ahead as yet. I am continuing to do the work on behalf of the Guyanese people, and I expect, though, that it will get even more busy in the not too distant future as we have to continue doing that work while campaigning for the elections.
Well, we'll keep watching you, but on this particular gaffe that we're having, I wanted to talk with you specifically about the education sector. And in particular, what are the things you're most proud of?
Well, let me say in a general sense that I am very proud of our achievements in the education sector. Because you know that when we came to office, we did not have a full universal primary education. We have achieved that. And we have achieved much more. I myself had said that we would be looking towards universal secondary education. And we are very much on course on that. But what is not talked about enough is our achievements with nursery education. And I think it's extremely important in the competitive world that we live in today, where we have science and technology and education playing a bigger and bigger role in countries' development, economic development. And therefore, it seems to me that if we give our children an early start, that we give them an advantage to get along with their own personal lives. And in a way, it's an investment in our country's future, as we know that they will also be the driving force, the human capital, the driving force for our development in the future. And our achievement in nursery education is the best in the whole Caribbean. We have about 85% enrollment in our nursery schools. And this is one of the best, I would not say only in the Caribbean, it is best in the Caribbean. But I will go beyond that and say I'm sure it's one of the best in the developing world at this time. And clearly we have done quite a lot to have our kids enroll, to give them an opportunity to develop. So I'm very, very proud of that achievement, that we have taken the steps and made the investment in order to ensure that our kids will have a good springboard from which to launch their lives and launch successful lives in the near future. Over the last 5 years, we have built 10 nursery schools. We have expanded nursery classes in some primary schools. In some areas where we do not have enough children to justify building a new nursery school, we have expanded the nursery sections in primary schools. And we have invested heavily in that area. We are now also producing our own materials, our own reading materials, working materials. And with this success in nursery education, we are aiming to have full literacy of our children by grade 4. So I think that that's an achievement that we have, that is not widely known, but to me it is as important as any other sector within the educational system itself.
And certainly with all that you just said, you are getting international recognition. I know there are global partners who are certainly willing to invest with your government as well.
Yes. And last December, I think we got a grant from one of these institutions.
The Global Partnership for Education?
The Global Partnership for Education. We gave a grant to the government through the Ministry of Education because they recognize the great work that this country has been doing. I must say generally too that I myself was invited to sit on the United Nations Secretary General's Commission on Education, and largely because I think that was a recognition of what this country is doing for education on behalf of our children here in Guyana.
Mr. President, it's May 12, 2015, and you've just been re-elected President of the Democratic Republic of Guyana. What's one of your first priorities?
Well, my first priority will be to achieve universal secondary education. As you know, we're well on track on that. We promised that in 2011, we said in the next 5 years we will bring universal secondary education to this country. And we are very, very clearly we were going to do that, had it not been for the fact that the opposition tried to close down the parliament and now forced us to the general elections. We have now achieved about 90% of our children leaving primary school are now into secondary school. And my first priority will be to ensure that we complete that process in the shortest possible time so that we can have the minimum standard of education in this country would be secondary education. And that, of course, I think makes a huge amount of sense, because if we agree that the most important factor for development in any society is the quality of the people that we have, the human capital is the most important thing. And life has shown that in many countries of the world, that is so. And therefore, achieving universal secondary education is extremely important for the future development of our country, as it is for the individuals, our youth, our young people, our children, who would be the ones to be acquiring a secondary education. So that would be one of my top priorities, something that has been very close to my heart, and I think that we can do it. We have the capacity. We have built. Right now, we have on stream and the funding to do so, to build 3 new secondary schools. One at Parfaite Harmony on the west bank of the Demerara that will house 1,000 students. We have a second one at Good Hope on the east coast of the Demerara, again for 1,000 students to be there. And a third one at Soesdijk on the east bank of the Demerara for another 1,000 students. And that will take us pretty close to getting towards universal secondary education. At the same time, in the interior area where the population is more scattered, we have increased already over this last 3 years. We have increased dormitory places by some 400, and we will continue to increase the dormitory places as we will build new secondary school. Right now we are building a new secondary school that's almost complete at K2, in the mountain of K2 in the Pacaraimans. And we have to consider a new secondary school in the Upper Mazaruni area, either at Kamarang or at Jawala, one of these big villages in the area. So with that, I think we will be able to achieve the goals that we have set ourselves to enhancing the quality of education that our children will have. And the minimum standard of education in this country will be at the secondary level. At the same time, I think we will be working towards enhancing and the passes and investing more in other areas, in our teaching, our teachers, to invest more. Right now we have about 75% of our teachers that are trained, but I think we need more specialized training for many of our teachers so that we can keep going up in the ranks of passes at the CXC and other examinations in our country. So in a sentence, I will say achieving universal secondary education will be my #1 priority.
One of the achievements you've had in the last couple of years, which we probably don't hear a lot about, is of course, the ability that our boys in schools, we have been able to retain them. Was this because of a particular thrust in your policies?
Yes, it was. I have been speaking about this a lot. I even spoke about it publicly on many occasions. Was saying while it is very, very important that we put emphasis on ensuring equality of genders, because historically, you know, females were always they were always on the they were not really given equality in many societies. We have achieved that. We have gone past that now. But I have noticed in our country, not only in Guyana, but in our region in particular, and even the wider world, that a lot of young boys have been dropping out of the system. And I have been calling on our experts to come up with strategies and efforts and to look into this matter. I even raised this at the head of the CARICOM, heads of government meeting in CARICOM, that there is a great need, there's a great need for us to examine this issue. And in Guyana, we have been making big progress in that. We have now reduced the fallout rates of our young boys from school. We have increased their attendance in school right now, which I think speaks very, very well for the future of our boys and our girls.
And of course, under your government, education has been receiving the largest budgetary allocation. In fact, for the last time, it was almost $2 billion or just over.
It has, so because I think that reflects the priority and the emphasis and the importance that we attach towards education, as not only as in itself, the importance of education in itself, but as a means to an end to modernize our country so that we can have a modern, developed society, a society where all Guyanese can be very proud of, a society in which people will not necessarily want ever to migrate from, but to attract many of those who have migrated to come back home to live. Because education also is an important factor in enhancing the quality of life, something that is all my life I've worked towards, achieving a higher quality of life for the Guyanese people.
So with the achievements of universal primary education, all the achievements in early childhood education, and you just talked about we're on track to realize the dream of the MDG, of universal secondary education. How else is your government going to prepare our children for the 21st century?
Well, as I've said before, education is playing a bigger and bigger role in economic development. And that is because science and technology have been central to many economic development internationally. And therefore, we are going to focus more on the STEM subject, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These are very important subjects that drives social and economic development. So one of the things we are going to do is try to prepare our young people from very early stages to develop a love for these subjects. And that is why we have already started building more and more labs in our schools, beginning from primary schools. We are encouraging and using more inquiry-based science education at primary school level to encourage the children to be more inquiring in their minds. And we hope that they will be able to build from that. At the same time, we are planning to train more teachers in these subjects, to also give more scholarships to send teachers abroad to look at best practices in the rest of the world and to be able to apply those things to the development to our country. We also are fortunate that we live in a country that has tremendous biodiversity, great biodiversity we have in our country. And we want to ensure that this will help to stimulate and drive more of our scientific development. Not only for Guyana, but this is a contribution that we can make to our region and the rest of the world, that we can attract students from different areas of the world to come here and also to study. Because our country, as you know, we have about 80% of our natural environment still intact. And that is now, in our modern world today, an enormous asset for us, and an asset that we can share with other people in other parts of the world that they can come. But fundamentally, we must also ensure that our people take this opportunity to study more into these areas and to use this to make Guyana a world-class center for inquiry of science and technology and in the development of environmental and other important subjects that is today gripping the world. That is the first instance of some of the things that we're doing to prepare. The other thing that you would have been noticing over the last few years, that we have built many, many technical institutes right across our country. And that is in preparing our young people for our modern economy that we see that is very close to us. We are very, very close to becoming an oil and gas producing country, to join the league of an oil producing country. And therefore, we have to ensure that our people are prepared and have the skills to work in this sector. And that is one of the reasons we're preparing spending so much on technical and vocational education at this point in time. Moreover, as you are quite aware, that we were working feverishly to have hydropower in Guyana, the Amaila Falls project. That should have started, construction of that should have started already, had it not been for the short-sightedness or the sheer vindictiveness on the part of the opposition in blocking that very important area. Because if you ask me, I can tell you without hesitation that our biggest impediment to our more rapid development is cheap energy. And that is why I'm still determined that we are going to move ahead with that. We already have a new company stepping into the place of Site Global, and we are moving ahead to get that. And I envisage that that will help to create a huge dynamic and develop a great manufacturing sector, industrial manufacturing sector. And we can also develop, because we have the possibility of an agro-industrial complex to turn much of our agricultural products into industrial output. And here, technical education will be of extreme importance. Creation of jobs for our people, not only in the city but in the countryside, like where we have agro-processing, and all over our country, in the interior, like wood processing and different type of things that we can do, that we will be able to have not only create jobs, but create high-paying jobs that will allow our people to have a better quality of life and enjoy a higher standard of living in Guyana. So those are some of the other parts of some of the other things that will drive our work in the education sector immediately after we win again in May 11th, after May 11th.
If you're just joining us, you're watching At Home with the President. This week we are focusing on education as we're chatting with His Excellency Donald Ramotar. We're down to our last few minutes of our program, and we have to say thank you so much for allowing us to spend some time with you today. University education is a big deal for many of us. Very many of the voters are looking to university. They want to start university. They're already there. What is your vision for university?
Well, first of all, let me also say that the university is very close to my own heart. Not only because I attended the University of Guyana myself, but because this institution was an institution that was started by Dr. Cheddi Jagan, the founder of our party, the late president of our country. And when it was founded, there was a lot of resistance from the opposition then about the university. But Dr. Jagan went ahead. And in fact, the university has a history that is enviable. We are the only colony that ever established its own university. And that is a tremendous achievement. And that is because of the vision that the PPP had at that time. And that vision continues to the day that the University of Guyana will play a tremendous role and a bigger and bigger role in the development of our country. At the moment, we have money put aside to repair and fix all the labs, to improve the library facilities. We're going to work on fixing the library facilities and fixing the whole physical infrastructure of the place. And we need also to lift the the university to be a world-class university. Therefore, we have to have a stronger teaching core, more lecturers with PhD, masters and PhD to be lecturing in our society, more research. As I mentioned to you earlier, the very setting of our country, the biodiversity of our country, the resources that we have in our country, and that we therefore have the raw material to do tremendous research, not only to benefit ourselves, but can make a major contribution to science and technology generally. And we need our University of Guyana to be on the cutting edge of in these areas that they can carry on. So we have to lift the quality of the university lecturers, teaching, etc. That is one of the aim. Apart from that, we want to make university education more and more accessible. You would have noticed that, okay, we started the University of Guyana here in Georgetown, and we expanded it to Berbice.
Right.
But we want to expand it right across the country by using information technology, and so that people who probably would not want to, or maybe who cannot come for any kind of circumstances to physically be at one of these centers, they will not be disadvantaged, that they can still attend and acquire a tertiary university education from either centers in their own areas or from their home by using information technology to get the education across to them. So we have a great vision for making our university a world-class, one of the top university, and my own hope is, because of our own physical environment, that we could be the #1 university in the world as far as biodiversity is concerned.
At the moment at the University of Guyana, there are some challenges, students and as well as lecturers. What is your take on what's happening?
Well, it's unfortunate, because I think the university council and the university administration, all they're trying to do is to improve standards, and they want to demand standards of work. They want to demand that lecturers put in their hours, because I've seen some terrible figures about the small amount of time that people work and the facilities and so forth that they get. So I think all of those things are in the negotiating process. But the objective, the focus of the council and the administration at the university is to lift the quality. They're following the government's policy of wanting to build a world-class university and give our students standards too. Many of the complaints of our students is that they don't get marks early, that they have to wait for a very, very long time. And all of these things are what the Vice Chancellor and the administration, that is what they are demanding from our lecturers. So I hope that they will be able to resolve this matter in the speediest time.
There are some people who will say that this is something the government should get involved in, and the government should try and solve it, especially the impasse between with the unions and the administration. Do you have? But
the government always has an interest, because the government would like to see things going smoothly. But there is laid down procedures. There are procedures of how these things. There are grievance procedures within the collective bargaining agreement that must be followed. And I think that once those grievance procedures are followed, you can find resolution to these problems. The grievance procedures have been laid down for a long time, improved and built upon. So I think once they follow the grievance procedures, I have no doubt that we can resolve these matters quickly.
And your vision for university continues?
And my vision for the university continues. I have very, very high hopes. I know in the very near future that the University of Guyana will be something that all of us can be very, very proud of.
Mr. President, thank you for having us in your home.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
We're
Pleasure
quite
having
pleased to
you
do it.
here.
We're quite pleased to do it. To our viewers at home, we thank you so much for joining us. Look, we look forward, of course, to being back here next week at the same time. We hope that you join us then for another edition of At Home with the President. I'm Anita Hubern. So long now.